Against all odds and my own pessimistic prediction, the Redskins pulled off another win today, taking Philly 27-20 at home off the strength of a long Matt Jones run to close us out. An exciting day to say the least. Jordan Reed was missed, but ultimately unneeded. The defense kept Carson Wentz from doing too much damage, but special teams in the Eagles' D were another story. We're going to break it down so you don't have to. It's the Hawks Die.
Welcome to the Hogsty with your crew, Alex Zeese, Steve Thomas, and Robbie Duncan. And now, here's your host, Sean Conti.
And we're back. Welcome back to the show, everybody. My name's Sean Conti. I got Mr. Steve Thomas on the line.
Oh, I'm here. I'm so excited. It was such a good football day today. Very excited and happy the Redskins won their fourth in a row. How long has it been since we won 4 in a row? Long time.
2012, maybe?
Yeah, 2012. Probably,
what do you think, Mr. Robbie Duncan? How long has it been? It seems like a long time.
I think we did last season, didn't we? To win the division?
Did we win 4 in a row?
Towards the end,
maybe.
maybe.
I'm totally wrong.
What I do know is that we are 8-2 in the past 10 games or something like that. I saw someone tweet that out earlier. If you
That's a nice stat.
The end
I
of
like that
last
one.
season going into this season, we've really only lost 2 games in a 8 or 10 game stretch.
Well, that's not right because you got the playoff game against Green Bay and then the first 2 games of this year, so that's wrong. That's automatically.
We're talking
losses.
Dan Steinberg tweeted it. Redskins won 8 out of
He's wrong.
regular season games.
Regular season games.
Oh,
Forget the
regular
postseason.
Okay.
God, Steve, just let us have this, man.
Well, I'm just saying.
I'm just kidding.
Let's be accurate.
No, I'm just kidding. Hey, but let's be happy because this was a pretty good day, I would say. Kirk had a good day, and I also think we had a good day on the ground. But I'm ready, Steve, for you to totally piss on my parade again on that. But I don't think you're going to.
No.
So
I'm
hit
not
us,
going to do
hit
that.
us with the stats, yeah.
Okay. No, I'm not going to do that. It wasn't Kirk's greatest day from a completion percentage standpoint, but I think it's inarguable. He looked good today. He was 18 of 34, 263 yards, 7.7 yards.
I thought he had more yards than that. Maybe I'm thinking of running.
263 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, 85.8 quarterback rating.
There you go.
Matt Jones. Sorry about that, guys. I got distracted. Matt Jones was 16 carries, 135 yards, 8.4 yards per carry. Robert Kelly was 5 carries, 59 yards, 11.8 yards per carry. Chris Thompson, 9 carries, 37 yards, 4.1 yards per carry. Kirk Cousins actually had positive yardage games today. That's a good thing. Our leading wide receiver today was Pierre Garçon, 6 catches, 77 yards. Deshaun Jackson was 4 receptions, 55 yards, and 1 long TD bomb that he dropped.
Boo.
Vernon Davis, 2 catches, 50 yards, including the 1 touchdown. James Crowder had a touchdown, 3 catches, 52 yards, and that is offense for today for the Redskins.
Does it seem to you guys like there were more, we just spread it around and shared with everybody today really well? It seems like you just listed off a lot of names with decent amounts of yardage for each one. I feel like we used a lot of weapons today.
Too. I left off Chris Thompson. Chris Thompson had 3 catches as well.
Mm-hmm. Oh, there you go.
I actually left him off. Yeah, so there were 5 different receivers that got the ball today. And
yeah, we used all of our running backs.
We really did.
Yeah, 1 Ryan Grant
substantially. I would just lead off to say that that's the kind of thing that Philly does. That's the kind of game they play. They've got 4 active running backs, obviously, that take snaps for them. And, one of them's Sproles, who's their number 2 receiver. They know how to share, and they have, 3 active tight ends that they like rotating in and out. They know how to share with a lot of their weapons. I feel like that was kind of a key to victory for us today, was to do the same thing. And I think we did pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get to the Eagles when we get to them, but I think they got away from Ryan Matthews too much today, personally.
Yeah.
But let's stick with
Probably
offense. Right. I'd like to start by asking Robbie about the play in the trenches, because to me that was the key to the game. The offensive line for the most part kept Kirk clean. I only counted 2 solid hits on Kirk, and both of those were erased by penalty. and then they just gashed the Philly defensive line. There were massive holes all day long.
Yeah.
So what'd you see in the offensive line?
They were,
Robbie?
grinding, man. They were really blocking their butts off in the running game, opened up some huge holes for Matt Jones. And then, Rob Kelly created his own holes sometimes. He had that one toss play that he just completely backtracked and got a first down on, if you remember. But, it was awesome to watch. It just shows you what great offensive line play does for an offense. I mean,
How much did we benefit from injuries there along the line, you think?
Eagles-wise?
I know Benny Logan went out, and then somebody else
Benny
did
Logan
too.
got out, but Fletcher Cox he's two guys in one. He's a monster, and he's tough to handle. But Redskins O-line handled him pretty well. Spencer Long, I think he had one play where he got kind of driven back into Kirk a little bit. Right. Cox he's a Pro Bowler. He's a stud. He's gonna make plays. It's he's getting paid too, just like everybody else is. So
he didn't make too many plays though today.
No,
honestly, he was pretty quiet.
No, he didn't. But there were times when he was getting a little bit of pressure up front. Kind of getting in him and some of the other D tackles were getting in Kirk's face some. But besides that, the offensive line was just gashing the Eagles' front seven, just wide open running lanes. It was pretty cool to see.
Yeah, and let's just stick with the running game, while we're talking about offensive line and whatnot. This is a little bit of hyperbole because I don't have the stats right at the tip of my finger since we're recording like 10 minutes after the game ended today. But off the top of my head, I think this might be the finest overall running game of the Jay Gruden era today, I'd say.
Wow, really?
I don't mean by – there might be a game which we gained more as a team. Don't hold me to that.
Sure.
I'm just saying as a general sense and how the running game was used today, how they used all the running backs, how the offensive line opened holes, how Rob Kelly created his own hole, as you said. We truly looked like a running team for the first time I can remember. Maybe that Miami game at the beginning of last year might have been the same. But overall, outstanding effort on the ground.
Yeah, and I think you have to attribute that, the fact that we actually ran the ball more, you have to attribute that to the Jordan Reed being out. With him out, it allowed us to be a little more creative with having Vernon Davis at tight end, because with him at tight end, starting, he's a blocking tight end, but he's a really good receiving tight end too. So, you can be a little bit more creative in how you set up your passing plays, because you're going to get a good blocker out of him, which makes it easier to run because you have the threat of passing out of it too, because you got a receiving tight end out of Davis as well. So it allowed them to be a little more creative. Obviously you want your best guys in there, but I think it definitely made them run the ball more with Jordan out.
Well, let's be honest. Jordan Reed is a little bit of a dichotomy for this team because he's so good, and I think, at least from my perspective, he's a Pro Bowl caliber tight end, or All Pro rather caliber tight end. But because he is so good, and Kirk gets fixated on him, and it seems like the offensive play calling gets a little fixated on him. Sometimes we go to him so often, and it stymies other things a little bit, I think. But from a running game perspective, let's just get this out of the way now, because one of our listeners was vindictive enough to resurrect one of my tweets from weeks ago when I was bad-mouthing Matt Jones. So what do you think about it now? So I'm just going to say, I stand by my feeling that Rob Kelly's a better running back than Jones. I think Rob Kelly ought to be starting over Jones. I think Kelly can create and has shown a propensity to create his own holes that Matt Jones hasn't. All those great Matt Jones looked a lot better today. He was running downhill for the first time sort of that I've seen, but at the same time he does not create. All those runs were just huge open holes in the offensive line, whereas Rob Kelly can make something out of nothing.
Rob Kelly made Matt Jones a better running back today. Like I tweeted out during the game, the game that we were all really watching was Matt Jones versus Rob Kelly. Rob Kelly came in and started getting all these chunks of yards and really nice running plays, and Matt Jones started to run had a little more pep in his step, a little more urgency in his running. So I think the two of them really feed off of each other. It
was that long Kelly run that was like 40 yards at the end of the first or the second quarter. I forget which one. I think that really lit a fire under everybody.
Sorry. And Matt Jones saw that and was like, if I don't step it up, he's going to be taking over for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, number one on that Rob Kelly run, that's the play I think you're probably referring to most, Robbie, when you saw that Rob Kelly created that run. Yes, there was a big hole that got him to the second level, but the whole 45 yards of it, he broke tackles, he made moves. That's not something we've seen from Jones. I will say that this is also the first game that we've truly have spread the ball around on the ground. Because Jones had 16 carries, but between Kelly and Thompson, they had 14 each. Which is really spreading it around a lot more. And surprise, the running game was much more effective.
Absolutely.
So there's that. So to that listener who I can't remember who it is, I stand by my statement. I think Rob Kelly is a better running back. I think Jones can do well when it's there. I think he cannot create when it's not there. Rob Kelly can make something out of nothing. So
did you say they had 14 each?
No. Between the two of them, they had.
Yeah, 14. I was going to say
that's a lot of carries.
I was going to say there's no way that was a fine. Yeah. Jay Gruden really turned over another leaf.
But
holy shit.
Yeah, no.
But yeah,
that ain't gonna happen.
I agree with you too, Steve. I think Rob Kelly's a better back in the sense of his vision and his ability to create more than Matt. I mean, Matt obviously has much more potential as a big back, and he's also got speed on him. If he learns to play with the vision that Rob Kelly has, then he's going to be unstoppable. I mean, because you put all that together in one body like he has, 6'2", 230, whatever.
Oh, he'd be O.J. Simpson is what he would be. I think that's the comp for me, straight off the top of my head.
He's
an old school comp, but that.
Except
when I did notice,
I was gonna say except the all the other negative stuff behind O.J.
Well, the murderers and all that. I'm not making Matt Jones out to be a murderer. People, so
Cowboys would still sign him.
They probably would. I don't think it matters to the Cowboys.
That was a dark joke.
I have to take it. This is a minor point, but if I have a criticism of the run play calling today, it's that we have a propensity to send our big power back to the edge, and we let our little scat back, hit the A gap. I don't quite get that. I know on the goal line we did it. When we had.
I thought he had that
second.
I thought he had that touchdown. By the way, I mean, I don't agree with him running it. I did too. But I thought he had it. It looked like he crossed the plane to me.
It just amazes me that we send a guy like Thompson through the gap who's not going to run over anybody, and then we send the very next play we send Jones on a sweep around the edge. I don't understand it, but whatever. We got the touchdown, we got the victory. That's a minor criticism. I do think
it's called
Jones
misdirection, Steve.
I do think that Jones doesn't quite have the speed to do that because we've done that a couple times, and he really can't get to the edge against faster linebackers. I've noticed. So, but anyway, what else on offense do we need to talk about here? I think we'd be remiss in not, talk to
Kirk and also Deshaun's return to Philly, which kind of crackled and faded a little bit.
Started off hot.
Well. Yeah, they made a big effort to get him the ball.
He got more looks, I think, today than the last 3 weeks combined, it seemed.
Well, I think he kind of lost the moral high ground when he dropped a perfect fade pattern.
Yeah.
That hit him dead in the hands.
That was brutal.
You got to catch that.
Yeah, that was a brutal. Yeah. I think we'd be remiss in not mentioning Jameson Crowder. I mean, he only had, 3 catches today.
Mr. Crowder.
Pro, man. I mean, he really is. He's I don't know if we can call him a true number one receiver because he doesn't have the size or the speed really for that. But he is going to be a solid pro. He already is a solid pro for us. Kirk's day, the one interception was a truly boneheaded play. It was just a bad throw. He shouldn't have made the throw. But in the grand scheme of things, he had a pretty good day overall. He looked sharp. We dropped 3 balls I think today for him that would have made his stats look a lot better than it was. He looked decisive. He looked sharp. The ball was coming off his hands much better.
I got to attribute him to not getting phased by that interception either. He came right back and was still slinging it like he was before that interception.
Well, it
was a pretty ugly one too.
Well, and I applaud the play callers too because if you notice what they did is they came when we came back from that they went 4 straight runs.
Yeah.
On the next series, which allowed, I think, him to kind of settle down a little bit. It wasn't his best day statistically. Again, we had a bunch of, several drops, and the completion percentage wasn't quite as high, but certainly he looked
better,
much more like the Kirk of the second half of last year than he has.
I mean,
so
obviously,
far.
beside the interception, I think we would all like that. This week's Kirk Cousins each week, we take that.
Yeah. And we can't criticize him for every intercept. I mean, quarterbacks are going to throw interceptions.
Well, I mean, yeah,
it's just
he had that guy. The guy was in
football.
his face as soon as he turned around for that bootleg.
Right.
So, I mean, it was a quick split-second decision. He should have. It's hard to say to throw it away, with that much time to think. But I mean, if really the thing that he did bad on that interception was just kind of weak-armed it to Vernon Davis.
Yeah.
If he actually kind of rifled it in there, he may have been able to even complete it, or at least force an incompletion.
Well, yeah, and also Malcolm Jenkins is really good. He's no slouch, and he made
a great play.
He could have had another one on the goal line
he
there
did.
too, Jenkins, and just kind of dropped it. But be that as it may, again, I think you're right. I would definitely take this Kirk over the Kirk we've seen thus far this week. Hopefully, this will silence some of the critics for at least a week. As we head on up to
at least for
Detroit.
a day, it's going to come back. It's going to go back to normal tomorrow. Trust me. Redskins sweaters, dark
Probably
place.
so. Probably so. Hey, and I think we had our first true gadget play today. We had the
Which sucked.
We had the fake. It was terrible. But we had the reverse. On about the third play of the game, I think, and then it got blown up for a 10-yard loss. But you give Jay credit for trying.
Yeah.
And Robbie doesn't seem too excited about it.
I mean, it looked
didn't
open
meet you
for
halfway
like a
on them.
split second, and then all of a sudden, just boom, it just completely collapsed on us. So yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I tend to think you ought to run that to Deshaun. If you're going to run a reverse like that, let the guy with all the speed try to hit it. Because I think if there was a little bit more speed there, he could have gotten away from that and at least gotten back to the line of scrimmage. But
We still ended up getting that first down on that drive after that play, though. Which was good.
I only counted 3 bad passes by Kirk today. And again, just to clarify, every dropped ball, every incomplete pass is not a bad pass. This is just my thumbnail. Okay, that one was on Kirk. And it was much better today. I only counted 6 pressures on him all day. He had a really clean pocket all day. For the most part, they didn't get a lot of pressure on him. As we discussed. So very good. Very good by the Redskins offensive line. Gave him time. He didn't get phased and didn't get rattled because of that. If you guys saw the report by Michael Phillips quoted Jay Gruden earlier today, maybe it was earlier today, saying that he thought that Kirk had gotten a little bit rattled by all the criticism.
Yeah, I saw that.
Did you see that? I think it's pretty.
I mean,
good.
I'm not surprised by that, but even so, I mean, fans are fans and media is media. They're going to say what they think. And if you don't like it, I mean, that's too bad. Play better. That's the grand scheme of things. Either block it out or just play better. So
yeah, I mean, you're an NFL quarterback. You're going to get criticism, and you can't let dopey podcasts and fans and reporters get to you. You got to just ignore that and man up. And,
exactly.
And
Probably
if I were
not
Jay,
the podcasts that's getting to him, most likely.
probably not. And I also kind of criticized Jay for saying something like that in public. I don't think that's something you want to say about your quarterback.
Yeah, that was kind of weird,
in my opinion. Yeah, it was. I think that was. I got to criticize Jay for that. So, what else do we have on offense, guys?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like we haven't talked about everything, even though we talked about the running game for a lot. I feel like there's more passing we didn't talk about.
I mean, other than that, I think Vernon Davis did a really good job filling in for Jordan Reed. He had that nice touchdown catch, and the wheel route that he torched Malcolm Jenkins on. So I think he did a really good job stepping up. Other than that,
he did have the one drop. The one listener asked us to keep track of Davis's yards after catch, and it turns out he made it easy because there was only one play he had any yards after catch because the one was the touchdown. And on that one wheel route you're talking about, he had it looked to me like 18 yards. Yeah, so that was the answer to that question by that listener. Red zone today, much better red zone efficiency, 2 of 3 in the red zone. 2 touchdowns out of 3 attempts, which is light years ahead of what we've done The past 2 weeks we've been better in that. So, much better. The past 2 weeks we've looked a lot more like the offense of 2015 than we had earlier in the season in that regard. So, 8 penalties today. It's overshadowed by just the Eagles' disaster penalty-wise, but we had another 8 penalties, including a bunch of stupid ones. I continue to maintain that you just can't.
We got to be pretty close to the bottom.
They are.
And we got to be close.
Win football games at a regular clip and commit that many penalties.
Yeah.
Notwithstanding the Eagles 13. I mean, that was a joke, but. So that's that. Do we want to move to
defense?
We want to move to defense?
Yes.
Yep. All right.
Let's do it.
Carson Wentz was 11 for 22, 179 yards, 8.1 yards per reception. Sacked 5 times. His rating was 77.7. That was by far his worst game in every area. Ryan Matthews, who I said earlier, they got away from too much. 9 carries, 60 yards for 6.7 yards per carry average. Darren Sproles, 4 carries, 20 yards. And Wendell Smallwood is who's their third string back, 4 carries, 6 yards. Receiving, Jordan Matthews, 3 for 75. Nelson Aguilar, 3 for 34. Doral Green Beckham, 1 for 23, and that was a spectacular throw and catch. Zach Ertz, 1 catch, 22 yards. Wendell Smallwood, 1 catch, 14 yards. And Darren Sproles, 1 for 4. So that was the Eagles' offense. On defense, let's see.
Kerrigan.
Kerrigan, they gave him 2 sacks. I thought he got a piece of a third, but ESPN.
Yeah, I thought they gave him 2.5.
Well, that's what the broadcast said. I'm looking at ESPN, and they say 2. So, their ESPN isn't the official stats. This is just somebody keeping track of it. Ricky Jean-Francois had 1. Preston Smith had a half sack. Trent Murphy had a half sack. Tackles, Will Compton and Will Blackman both led the way with 6 tackles each. So that was the defensive stats. So,
nice.
What did we think about our defense?
Defense played their best game the entire season. They were just
nice.
I mean, the pressure we got up front from our front 4 was really made the big difference. I mean, and our secondary was just locking those receivers down. Josh Norman, I think, only got targeted once, and even that was incompletion. I think Carson Wentz was terrified to throw it towards Josh Norman.
Yeah, I think they were. Yeah, I think Josh Norman, another Pro Bowl day today. Like you said, they didn't even call his name. They didn't go to him. That was just a case of him locking his receiver down and the Eagles being afraid of him. I think. I agree with your assessment, Robbie. I think it was the defense's best game of the year by far. We've gotten just demolished in the run game, all year long. Every team has just completely run all over us. It's just been awful. And this week, for the first time, we held a team under 100 yards rushing total. As a team, the Eagles were 21 of 94, which, while not great, that's still over 4 yards per carry. It's that is. Let me see. That's 4.5 yards a carry. That's not great, but for us, that's much better.
Yeah.
So that is a result we can live with. We've gone from disaster to we can live with it, and so that's progress.
I think
in terms of wins, what did you see? Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say I think our safety play was big too this week. I think Duke Iheanacho was flying all over the place, making some really solid tackles. Dante Whitner came in and did some really good stuff too, especially in the run support. I thought. I mean, we weren't perfect at run stopping this week again, but. No. We did better than we had, and I think pretty sure I saw some good stuff from Dante Whitner, some good tackles up in the middle in open space. So that is a plus. We didn't get that from David Bruton before that.
Yeah, I'd give Joe Barry a little bit of credit here. There was more blitzing today than there has been in the past. We did have some called blitzes. There were several formations in which we brought that strong safety up, like you were talking about. Not every time, but he was there sometimes. So I do give credit where credit is due. Like you, I saw a lot of push in the defensive front, in the defensive line. That really helped. I think our analysis of Carson Wentz and what I saw on tape sort of came true a little bit.
He wasn't he wasn't spectacular, and he made that really nice play in the pocket that got called back, and then the deep ball to Jordan Matthews. Other than that, I really was not that impressed with him, to be honest. I didn't see that much to be really like, oh my God, he's going to be, we got to play him for the next 10 plus years.
Yeah, well, I mean, the media has been slobbering all over, and the Fox pregame was slobbering all over Carson Wentz. Yeah. But what I saw on the film when I was watching it was that his deep ball was kind of shaky, and we showed it was inconsistent, and that's what he showed today. He had the one great pass, like you said, and then he missed several others. I think, despite the fact that, the media has concluded that he's the best in the NFL against the blitz, basically, I think the pass rush really did get to Wentz. Yeah, and like you, I thought he was okay. He wasn't anything to, no great shakes about it. We didn't allow him to show his athleticism. So, chalk me up as thinking Carson Wentz has a good future, perhaps, but he
needs a better supporting cast around him too. At least the receivers.
The receivers leave something to be desired, I think. I'm sure the Eagles are kicking themselves at Deshaun Jackson's in burgundy and gold at this point. They could really use him. Yeah.
Well, I want to kind of talk about Kerrigan real quick. The fact he got those 2 sacks. That's what they're saying is 2 sacks. I thought it was 3, but that's how they're listing it. But the real thing. I mean, he went against who he had to go against, and he took advantage of it. But let's not pretend. Let's not act like Kerrigan is back all of a sudden. He went against a rookie right tackle that shouldn't have been playing, and after he got those sacks and stuff, they started chipping him and double teaming him every play, so he couldn't make any pressure. I want to see him next week against the Lions create pressure like that again before I really say, okay, Kerrigan is finally awake. He's back to his old school Kerrigan ways. Because up to that point, he hadn't done anything. He had that strip sack. He had the strip sack in the first game, the sack before the halftime in the Ravens game. But up to that point, he'd been doing nothing on that defense. So let's celebrate the game he had today, but let's also just kind of, be real about it and accept the fact that it was against a rookie right tackle and that he has to keep playing that way to really, warrant a big celebration.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. And let's be honest, like you said, after we had the 2 sacks, he kind of did disappear for big chunks of the game. And yes, maybe it was because they were chipping him. But listen, I mean, Ryan Kerrigan is the guy making all the money on the defensive line. He's the guy who's been to multiple Pro Bowls. He's supposed to be the leader of the defense. And so, I think it's fair to suggest that we do expect more out of Kerrigan. And today was a start. We'll see. I mean, he kind of did this last year, too, if everybody remembers. He had a slow start and ended up with, better stats. But as we said over the summer, Kerrigan is like an 8 to 10 sack a year guy. He's not ever going to be, a 13, 14 sack guy on a regular basis. He had the one year he was a little better. But that's kind of who he is. He's I'd call him like a B-plus level, rusher in terms of, if you're going to rank him as, overall in the NFL. He's not an A-plus level, elite talent. Yeah. And so we're going to get these games from him every once in a while where he has multiple sacks. But what we're not going to see from him, I think history shows, is consistent, violent pressure every single week. He just hasn't ever showed that. No. So
anyway. I mean, you get someone else his caliber to truly complement him. You might see an uptick in production. I think he's never had that support really that well. I hear what you're saying, but that's just another way to look at it.
Well, I'd like to ask Robbie about Preston Smith. We were so excited about him as a rookie last year. He looked great. And he's kind of disappeared somewhat this year too. I mean, today's game. What did Smith have?
Half a sack.
Let me look here real fast.
And a couple
half
of
a sack.
Were right on the line of scrimmage, like really good run stops.
Yeah, two totals tackles, 1 solo, and then the half sack. He hasn't really been, what we wanted this year in terms of a second-year player taking a step.
No, yeah, statistically, no, he's not having a good year. But I've seen more consistent pressure from him than I have Kerrigan. He may not be getting the sacks, but I've seen him getting really close to getting sacks and, beating guys and being right there for it, but, not able to close on it. It's coming the way I see it. I mean, it may be a little bit of a sophomore slump compared to the stats and sacks he had last year, but it's just figuring things out still. I mean, he's still very young, still very raw as a pass rusher, but he's got a lot of traits it's working for him, just not showing up on the stat sheet yet.
Well, see, this is why we have you, Rob, because this is the expert eye compared to my hey, he's not producing on the stat sheet view. So that's at least it's good to hear that what you're seeing is that he's making legit progress, even if it isn't necessarily showing up on the stat sheet.
Obviously, you want to see the production on paper, but
right.
Sometimes the eye test alone is not good enough. Like, I'm not accepting the fact that he's not getting stats. I'm just pointing out that he's right there to be putting down sacks and getting pressures and stuff, but it's just it's not quite there yet.
Yeah. Absolutely. I counted 9 hits on Wentz, and by there was pressure on him basically all day long. The 9 hits were the 9 solid good hits on him. But basically most pass plays he did not have a clean pocket, and that's certainly a credit to our defensive line. I do say that I think the Eagles really hurt themselves with the penalties. The broadcast team made a big deal about it. This is the second week in a row they've had over 110 penalty yards, I think. Some of those penalties were really killer, awful penalties. It cost them a touchdown, or it gave the Redskins a touchdown. It cost them a drive. If they had been a more disciplined team, it would have been a different story today. For
absolutely,
sure.
And that's kind of how we used to play. We'd put ourselves in bad situations with penalties. I mean, it's not like we played a perfect game penalties-wise either, but Eagles were worse, and they gave up big penalties as well that really affected them. The holding calls, the Fletcher Cox hit on Cousins, stuff like.
Which was an obvious. The Fletcher Cox hit. I mean, he should have known better. You just can't do that. You just can't drive the quarterback into the ground a split second late like that. I mean, that's in today's NFL. It just isn't going to happen. I want to real quick, as long as we're on penalties, the NFL needs to do something about this excessive acceleration stuff. It's just crazy. The fact that Vernon Davis, pretended like he shot a jump shot with a basketball, and that is a penalty. That's 15 yards, which actually cost the Redskins a touchdown at the end of it all.
I think you can blame ridiculous. Jimmy Graham's slam dunks for that. I think he was the reason that they changed that.
Maybe so, but it's ridiculous. What's wrong with Jimmy Graham's slam dunks over the crossbar? I don't understand why that's bad.
To me, nothing, but I agree.
Alignment,
the poor NFL has to align their field goal once again.
It's like, so wait,
those
so you
poor
just
guys.
Now you have to, so you can spike the ball and you can spin the ball, but you can't shoot it. You can't shoot the ball. It's ridiculous. I think the NFL needs to really and truly rethink fundamentally some of the things they're disciplining players for.
It's the biggest reason why I hate the NFL, among other things. Like, it's entertainment, and at the grand scheme of things, football is entertainment, and why can't they celebrate a touchdown? It's so stupid that sure, some people can just toss the ball to the ref and be cool with it. But, you score a touchdown, you deserve the right to celebrate. I mean, as long as you're not over the top like Chad Johnson used to be or Randy Moss or Terrell Owens, that's fine. But you can do a little dance or shoot a basketball. The fact that you can't have you can't do anything, you have to be so robotic and show no personality at all. It bugs the crap out of me, and I wish they would just...
I mean, you can You can dab. You can, Antonio Brown's out there twerking. They'll let you do some. I mean, I think the problem is it's just inconsistent. Yeah. They'll let you do something.
They did flag Antonio Brown for the twerking, I think.
Did they get him for that?
Well,
okay.
I think so.
Either. I mean, they let you get away with some suggestive stuff, but then not others. I think that's the problem. It's
Odell Beckham today got away with a lot. He had a touchdown and went through this really long dance in the end zone that he just kept going, and they didn't flag him for it. That was acceptable, but shooting, pretending to shoot a basketball with a football, that's penalized.
Right, it's so harmless.
They got Josh Norman last week for the bow and arrow thing.
It's so ridiculous.
Dumb. It's ridiculous. And who is the Saints player that's been doing that? The Saints receiver, who's been doing that. It's
many
crazy.
people have been doing it.
NFL. If you're listening to this at all, we think it's
and we know you are.
Somebody is from the NFL might be listening to it. It's not beyond the realm of possible, and we really think you need to fundamentally change the way you're thinking about some of this stuff. It's only going to hurt the fans' enjoyment of
You're the no fun league.
At the end of it all.
No one's going to want to watch if it's so robotic and shows no personality or individualism.
Yeah, look at the Jose Bautista bat flip from last year in the ALCS last year in that home run. I think baseball applauded that, and it's still talked about today as what a great moment, when Jose flipped the bat and the penultimate home run in that game. In the NFL, that would have been a 15-yard penalty. Yeah. The equivalent of that in the NFL would have been a penalty. It's just ridiculous. So I didn't mean to get off on a tangent.
Penalty and a fine.
I'm sorry, I just felt like I had to mention. Yeah. So I didn't mean to get off on a tangent. I just had to mention that.
No, it needs to be addressed. It's ridiculous. It really, really bugs me.
Oh, last thing before we go to game balls and everything, notice we hit a fade pattern in the end zone. Thank God for a touchdown.
Yeah.
We miss on about 3 of them, but we did hit one. And then, the Vernon Davis catch was basically the equivalent of a fade on the wheel route and the way the ball traveled. So, hey, we hit 2 of them. It's Jay Gruden's favorite pass. So, there you go.
Nice. Well, Steve, why don't you lead us into game balls then, man?
All right. Game balls. I've been thinking about it, and it's a tough one. It really is, because there's so many players that did well. I was thinking about giving it to Kerrigan. I think Kirk Cousins deserves some love. Matt Jones deserves some love. But at the end of it all, I'm going to give a group award, and I'm going to give the game balls to the 5 starting offensive linemen, because I think they were the key to the game. They played both well in both phases. So I think my game balls, I'm going to give the game ball to the starting offensive line today, with honorable mentions to Matt Jones for a good game, Rob Kelly for showing up, and Kirk Cousins for coming out of his funk, and Kerrigan for his sacks. So there you go. Game ball to the offensive line.
Nice. That was like 7 game balls. That was 12 game balls altogether.
One game ball.
5 core game balls.
Yeah, 1 game ball, but just a bunch of compliments. So, Sean, who's yours, since you're criticizing me for mine?
Yeah, so I agree. This is probably a tougher game to call this for, because there was more guys just involved, I think. I'm going to say, I like the Matt Jones thing that you said. I'm going to say Kelly, only because 11.8 average is fantastic. Yeah. And I think, like Robbie had called out earlier, and I totally agree, I think it was that one play he had again, late first quarter, early second, that 40-yard run. I think that really turned it up for everybody. Mm-hmm. I think everybody, especially the other running backs, stepped up their game at that point. So I'm actually going to give it to Kelly. I hope we see more of him as we go on.
I do too. And you know what? Steve stole my game ball, so I'm going to give my game ball to. Oh, sorry. I'm going to give my game ball to the defensive line. They create a lot of pressure for Carson. Didn't make it easy for him, which made it a really easy day for the secondary to cover. They kind of were symbiotic there. I mean, defensive line benefited from the secondary's coverage, and the coverage benefited from the defensive line's pressure. So I'm going to give it to the defensive line. They hadn't been very good this season at getting pressure, and they got a lot of pressure this week. So that made a big difference.
And they didn't get blown off the ball on the run plays by the opposing offensive line either, like it's been happening. No. For the most part, they had their moments, but for the most part, it was a very solid game. So I think that's a good call.
Yep.
Nice.
Sorry, I
It's
stole
all
your
good.
thunder, Robbie.
Everybody would have expected it from me anyway.
Robbie Duncan praising the O-line? No way.
Who'd have thunk it?
Yeah. Who'd think it?
Nice. All right. Well, Jesus Christ,
I'd
guys.
like also, I just also have to say, you guys can disagree with me. It's fine. But
This
I'm
is
very happy
Steve's
to see-
last point.
It is.
By the
I
way,
was very happy to
There will
see-
be 3 or 4 more after this.
No. I was very happy to see Colin Kaepernick play badly today. So
He got his
that
first
made me
touchdown
happy.
in like a year
He still
today.
Yeah, and
He
then they
still wasn't
lost
good.
45. They lost 45-16, and his completion percentage was something along the lines of about 300. So I was very happy. Screw Colin Kaepernick. Thank you very much.
Nice. All right, there you go, Kaepernick. All right, well, sweet. Who do we have on the docket next week? Could it
Lions.
be the jolly old Lions? Okay, sweet. All right, well, we will we have obviously written content coming up to get you ready for that game. We'll be coming at you with our normal episodes, so stay tuned throughout the week for all the news. We will see you soon, a.k.a. next time, here on the Hogsty.